Hey guys, just gonna get this reposted. I had obviously some technical difficulties on the last one, so give me 1 second. All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I need to get a decent mic. So if you guys are having trouble hearing me, please say something in chat. Join. It looks like a couple people are watching, so can you guys hear me all right? Well, let me know. All right, so to recap what I'm going to try to show you tonight, in Oculus Medium, you can do the Lathe tool, which essentially spins your model within the space, and you can record that. I want to show you how to sort of recreate that same thing in Blender for a couple reasons. I just recently learned how to do this. It'll teach you how to do animation and control objects via like paths, which creates much smoother animations, and it simplifies animating versus like manually moving a camera around and keyframing it, having it follow a path that you've already kind of designed ahead of time. It just, again, it simplifies it greatly. So, all right, let's get going on this. So I have imported my Demon Hunter I've been working on. This is Blender 2.8. I'm using the, I think it's called EV engine. And so I just imported the model from Medium, exported it as a FBX out of Medium, and then imported it into Blender. To set up the vertex colors, you simply highlight, let me rename this. So you highlight your mesh, and if you go over here and choose this option here and choose shader editor, that'll bring up this screen. And when you first bring it up, it'll look like this. You have a principled BSDF shader and your material output. And all you need to do to get your vertex colors from Medium is do add input attribute, and in the name type vertex colors. So just type that in there, and then take this color output and take it to the base color input. And then this material output should have the BSDF to surface. Once you've done that, your viewport might look like this. So if you want to switch over to rendered mode, you just come up here to this section of your 3D viewport and click on this sphere. And now you're seeing the, I believe it's the Eevee render engine. If your viewport is like slow once you do that, you can also come over to this button right here and change your viewport samples down to a lower number, and that can make this work much faster while you're working. And then your render samples is just when you're doing a render, so you can have that as high as you want, and it won't impact your performance while you're working. All right, so that covers getting your vertex colors in the scene. So I'm going to switch this back to timeline. And I think that's what it comes up with by default. All right, so to create a path for our camera to follow, right now all I have in my scene is this sun lamp and a camera. So to add a path for the camera to follow, we need to do a couple things. So I'm just going to click off of any of the objects in my scene. I'm going to hit Shift A. That's going to bring up the add menu. And I'm going to choose Curve Circle. And then I'm going to hit the S key to scale that because it usually makes it pretty small. Not sure why I'm not seeing it. Let me switch. I'm going to switch back to the unrendered mode to see if I can figure out why. Interesting. Did it really make it that small? Let me try that again. Add. This is my first time doing this in 2.8, so bear with me. It's really odd. I'm not seeing that. In the scene. Not sure if it's a scale issue or what. That is bizarre. All right. That is weird. All right, let me try. We can do it a couple ways. Let me try a easier and see if that works. Nope. Odd. Sorry, guys. I wasn't expecting to not be able to see this. That is so weird. Let's try. Frame selected. Nope. Let's just try mesh then. So that's working for whatever reason. Okay. It says object type visibility. Curve is on. Really odd. Well, let's see if we can add. I'm assuming we can't add the path option on this. Just gonna look real quick. All right, let me try this one more time. Shift, curve. And let me do a path. Nope. I really don't understand why this isn't working. Now it shows up. Okay. All right, I'm going to try this one more time with circle. Very odd. Okay. So I now have this working. I don't know why it wasn't working before. Odd. Okay, so I've added a curve and a circle, and you can see that here. And you can make adjustments to the path, but I'm going to leave it as it is. So now I'm going to switch back to object mode, and it disappears. Interesting. So you have to be in edit mode to see it. That is not the same as the last version. Interesting. Okay, so in edit mode, I can adjust my path if I want. So if I select these, like select one of these vertices and hit the G key, I can adjust the path. So I can adjust the shape, but I don't want to do that. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hit Shift A. Let's see. Go back to object mode. And I'm going to add in a empty. So you want to do empty and plane axis. And then scale that with the S key. And we're going to use this. We're going to parent our camera to the empty so that it follows wherever the empty goes. So if I highlight the camera, hit Control P, and then say Object, I just parented the camera to the object. And it will keep the transform, which just essentially means if we have it this far away from the empty, it will follow it there. But I'm going to put it right next to the empty for now. So now if I choose or select the empty, and that did not work again. Maybe I should have just done this in the old version, but we'll figure it out. Relationships. So I'm going to choose parent. You can do it this way as well. And put it on empty. Once you parent it, you should see this dashed line between the object that's being parented by something. And it may move the object that you parented like somewhere randomly in the scene. So once that happens, just move it back where you want it and rotate it. Get it like back where you need it in the scene in relation to the empty. Oops. All right. So I'm just going to adjust my camera back to where I had it before. If I hit numpad 0, that will move me into the camera. So I can make some minor adjustments. All right, so that looks good for now. So I have the camera parented to the empty. So if I click on the camera, choose the object, you can see that it's parented to empty. So the next thing we want to do is add a modifier to the empty, or a constraint. So if we click on the empty, go to the constraint tab, we can do follow path. So just click on this and go down to relationship, follow path. And now we can set a path for it to follow, and we're going to have it follow that circle path that we created, the nerves path. And now you can see, if we look close here, the empty has a dashed line down in the nerves path, which we can't see, which is very odd. But Oh well, this will serve our purpose. I'm going to go back to edit mode so I can see the path. Make sure I have it selected here on the scene objects. And then if I go down to the object data panel that looks like a curve, this is where I can set the path attributes, or at least that's how it used to be. I'm just going to go down through here and see if I can find, unless it's in the properties menu. Nope. Hmm. There we go. I told you to go to the wrong place. You want to go to the object tab. So you have the circle NURBS path that we created selected, and then you go to this object panel and expand motion paths. And this frame range should dictate how many frames it will take to travel this path. So let's see if that is working. It's not. Maybe I should have practiced this ahead of time, huh? Distancing. What I'm looking to see happen is for the empty to follow the path, but it's not doing that. Oh, so I missed a step. Go back to the empty, and you actually have to choose the follow curve checkbox. And then you have to press the animate path. So you want to check this box, hit animate path, and now finally we see that our empty follows that circular path, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to go back to frame 0 here, and I'm going to just play it to see how fast it moves. So that appears a little fast to me for kind of like a panoramic around my model. So I'm going to go back to the NURBS path here, go back to the object settings, and I'm going to change. I believe this will update it so it will take longer. So I'm going to do 500 instead. And I'm going to update my pass, and I'm going to see now it takes longer. Just to be sure, I'll make it extremely long, and we'll see. So that doesn't seem to be updating it. But I know it's here. So let's see. Path animation. Here we go. So on the path animation panel of the curve, this is where you make the adjustment. So we're going to do 500, let's say, and hit play. And now we see our empty moves much slower around the curve. So with just that one parameter, you can adjust like how fast your camera is going to move through the scene. Imagine you don't have to use like a circle, right? You could have a zigzag path through your entire scene and use this the same way. All right, so I'm going to up that to 700. Good, nice and slow. All right, and then I'm going to go back to the empty, or no, I'm sorry, the nerves path. Go to objects. I'm assuming I have to increase this as well, so it'll animate longer. Or maybe it, you know what it is? It's the animation settings here. Okay, so on my output panel, I've got it stopping at 250. I'm going to increase that to 700 frames. All right, let's play this out and see. It's probably too slow now, but you can see how you can make these adjustments. And I haven't keyframed anything yet, but I've already created an animation. All right. So the next step of this process to make it really cool is we're going to select the camera and we're going to add a constraint to the camera, and that constraint is called track to. So once you've done that, you click on the target and you choose your demon hunter or whatever your object is. Now notice the camera inadvertently just like pointed straight down. So what we need to do is adjust these two parameters. You can use Z or minus Z. And now all I have to do is fix my camera orientation. Okay, so I'm going to get it looking at the demon hunter from the start. And then I'm going to do, while I'm still in this mode looking through the camera, I'm going to hit the I key, make sure you're on frame 1, hit the I key and say lock route scale. All right. So now I'm going to go back out and I'm going to play the animation, and if I did everything right, the camera should stay focused and track to the demon hunter, which it is doing now. So this is what I meant by recreating the lathe. Essentially, it's not exactly the same, but instead of spinning the model, I am rotating my camera around the demon hunter in a like steady frame rate, right? You make that same adjustment in medium where you can control how fast the lathe is. So pretty cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to back up to frame 0. I'm going to hit numpad 0 to go back out so I can see my scene, and I'll show it to you from a different angle so we can see what is happening. So the camera is tracking to the demon hunter, and the camera is also following the empty, which is following the path, which we can't see. Yeah, we can't go in edit mode. I'm gonna have to read up on why I can't see the paths in my viewport. All right, so one last thing I want to show you. So I'm gonna go back to frame 0. We go in edit mode. See, this really stinks. Oh, all right. So if you want to see, oh no, that put it in edit mode. And I bet we can't keyframe from there. All right, so I'm gonna go to object mode, and I have my path selected. I'm gonna hit I and lock route scale, and I just created a keyframe. So that's gonna lock in the scale of the circle and its location. So now, if I want to have the camera like move in and out closer to the demon hunter, I'm gonna go to like frame, let's say 30. I'm assuming this will work. And then I'm gonna go into edit mode. I'm gonna hit scale, or I'm not. Wow. So this worked much better on the old version. I'm gonna have to figure out why I cannot see the curve in object mode. That's so bizarre. Well, I guess we can still do what I wanted to do. So notice if I scale the nerves path, look, my camera moves in and out. So if I come in closer, all right, and So I've moved the camera closer at frame 30, and now I'm going to hit I and lock rock scale again. Now watch what happens. It will continue that curve. Now I kind of did that too fast, so I'm going to move this keyframe. So to do that, I need to go to the dope sheet. And if I click on this keyframe, I can just drag it. So I'm going to drag it further in time. And that should slow down the speed at which the camera moves to that location. So I'm going to go back to timeline and back it up again and play it out. So now if we watch it from the camera viewport, you can see what I did. So I'm slowly moving in closer to the Demon Hunter, but it's still tracking that path, which is really cool. And I only had to animate or keyframe one object in my entire scene. So we'll go back to this again. Make sure I have the nerves path selected. So I did the last one. Let's see what frame that's at. Looks like frame 100. So I'm going to go to frame 200. If you want to quickly jump to a certain frame, you can click here, type it in, and hit enter. All right. So at 200, I'm going to go ahead and pan in or pan back out. Okay. And maybe I want to, maybe I'll move the empty up in the scene. Okay. So I'm going to lock route scale that change, and then I'm also going to do that on the nerves path because I changed the scale of that as well. So now I just have literally 3 keyframes. If you're in this timeline, you can up and down arrow to quickly move through the keyframes for an object, which is nice. All right, so I'm going to pan back here. And it looks like my camera got a little out of rotation, so I'm going to change that rotation real quick. And notice if I move to this keyframe where I had it keyframed before, always do that if you're going to make a change. So up, down arrow, once you have the camera selected, make sure you're on that keyframe you want to change, make your adjustment, and then just hit I again, lock right scale, and that'll override it. And I'm going to go ahead and play this out. Let me switch it to the rendered mode and see if it'll actually let us watch it while it's animated. Odd. I guess you cannot do that in the camera viewport. Interesting. Well, we'll switch it back. Now I'm really confused. I'm telling you, this new Blender, it's going to get me. I have no idea why we can't see the character now. Or an object mode. Edit mode. I didn't hide it. So it shows up in edit mode, but it will not show up in object mode. Well, apparently we can play from edit mode. So as you can see, the camera's kind of moving up and down as well as rotating around the figure. So you can do some pretty cool stuff with that. And it's smooth. I tried doing this manually, like keyframe and then like move the camera manually, change the rotation. It looks so bad. It was all over the place. So that's a pretty cool technique you can use to create fluid camera movement. But you can apply this to anything. If you've seen some of the Deadpool, or the one Deadpool animation I did where he's running along the wall, I use the same principle. So created an empty, and then parented Deadpool's like root bone, to that empty, and then had the empty follow the path, and that's how I got him to run along the wall, and then kind of look like he was falling. It's the same exact approach. So sorry this was a little bumpy. I'm still getting used to 2.8, but hopefully that helps you guys out and you thought it was cool. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and render this out, and I'll post the results. And thanks for joining and watching. Like it if you enjoyed it. Have a good night.